Chairwoman, can I just circle back on one thing because I want to make sure I have it right? You had reached out to DNC Chair Jamie Harrison. I think he's been chair for about a year. He took over for Tom Perez, and you had told him what's going on, which I think he knows what's going on. It's not like the DNC is doing this without the chairman's blessing. You had voiced what's going on, that the state party is basically going around, the DNC is going around the state party. You, other progressives, won a fair election. So you took over the leadership of the party.
Yep.
When you won, they literally basically cleaned out the cookie jar.
Yeah.
They took huge sums of money. Yeah. I mean, I stole it. I don't know. I mean, that was the property of the Nevada. That was the property of the Nevada State Democratic Party, which progressives had just won an election to take over. Right. They stole the money. Then they basically from what the sounds of it, they've created a shadow state party.
Yes.
Run by establishment old guard people. And he told you that my hands are tied. I'm following the White House's marching orders.
What he said was, this is unprecedented. We've never had all of these elected officials sign. We've never had elected officials sign a complaint against a state party. And, I had a call from the White House, so I feel like my hands are tied. I'm going to have to give them this emergency access. So what we did was we had our federal attorney invoke the rules of the data sharing agreement and request immediate mediation. So we will be going into mediation with our federal attorneys. Sandler Reef are going to represent us in that mediation process. So we will finally have the opportunity to lay out our case and our documentation, our evidence. Now, around that same table is going to be attorneys for Cortez Masto, for Titus Horsford and Lee, and the governor. So, it's not going to be those congressional representatives, our senator or governor at the table with us. Unfortunately, it's going to be representatives, or attorneys or representatives from NDV or the DSC and the DSCC and the DTRIP and the DGA will be there. So we're going to lay out our case. Does that mean we're going to be successful? I don't know, but we have a very, very strong case because we have a lot of documentation. We have a lot of evidence of wrongdoing on their part. And ultimately, though, it's still Chair Harrison's final decision on what happens, whether Washoe County keeps that access and keeps state party assets, or whether he says to them, hey, you can't do this and you got to work with the state party. And you would think that what happened in Virginia would be inspiration to work with the state party. But apparently the Democrats can't learn lessons from their losses. Like in Virginia, they did a workaround the state party, and they had major losses in Virginia.
Can you elaborate on that? How did they work around the
Terry
state party?
McAuliffe campaign and some of those other campaigns did a workaround the state party with one of these PACs and did a coordinated campaign outside of the state party, similar to what NDV and Washoe County is doing. And by doing
was that another example of the state party was a little too left for them?
Well, I don't know, because I don't know about Virginia leadership. I couldn't make that assessment, but I do know that they decided they didn't want to work with the state party. And so they did this workaround to circumvent the state party, and they lost. So, and they did something similar in North Carolina back several years ago. In North Carolina Democratic Party, it took them years to recover because they did the same kind of maneuver where they gave a county party all the power. And it basically destroyed the state party for several years. It took North Carolina several years to recover from that. But that doesn't seem to be a concern, is the problem here, is that if you are really concerned about serving your constituents, serving Nevadans, and being true representatives of the people, why would you be doing this? I mean, why would you even gamble? Why would you even take this gamble? To me, it's like a huge gamble in a midterm election when it should be all hands on deck. So we should all be working together to make sure we win. I mean, I don't want a Republican extremist in the governor's seat or the senator's seat. I certainly don't want Nevada to be responsible for losing our U.S. Senate. So why would you risk that and not work with the state party, who's there to fully support every single one of them?
Well, it kind of reminds me of, I think it was Bernie Sanders who said this, actually. but the Democrats would rather go down on the Titanic as long as they're in first class. And that kind of sounds like what's going on here, because you would have, if your main goal was winning, regardless of who runs the state party, but if your main goal was keeping Nevada in Democrat control, keeping the Senate, keeping those Democrats who are currently senators from Nevada in office, electing Democrats in the House. Amy Villela, I always mispronounce her name. Amy Villela is running again. If your main goal was winning, you wouldn't be creating shadow state parties that who the hell knows what they're doing. And they might be, you guys might be doing things that are actually hurting, not you, but what they're doing.
Right.
It sounds like, yeah, they want to win, but more so they want to keep the status quo, and progressives taking over the state party has disrupted that status quo. So if they have a chance between winning and keeping the old guard and the Harry Reid machine in power, they're going to take the latter.
And I'm not even sure this isn't necessarily about power. It might just be about them getting paid. Sorry.
Well, being paid and power kind of coincide.
I did want to make one point, though, is that, they say they can't trust us, but yet we haven't given them any reason not to trust us. They haven't given us a chance. And as far as fundraising goes, we put out a statement just recently where we raised almost $900,000 in 2021 since we took office. That's more than the Democratic Party has ever raised before in previous administrations. But yet they can't even bring themselves to acknowledge that. The local blogger there and CEO of the Nevada Independent, who likes to constantly attack progressives.
John Ralston.
Yeah, that guy. By the way, he gets paid by NDV every month just to attack us.
Really?
Yeah, they pay him.
That's interesting.
He gets a check from them.
So this super PAC, NDV, let me get the exact name.
Well, don't forget, though, they have registered as a federal committee with the FEC, though, and they're being run by the DSCC.
But let me get something straight. Nevada State Democratic Party, which is the shadow state government that the DNC is working with to basically sabotage you.
Nevada Democratic Victory.
Okay, Nevada Democratic Victory. The shadow state party, Nevada Democratic Victory, that the DNC is working with to sabotage the elected state leaders and sabotage the state Democratic Party. You're telling me that the Nevada Independent's main journalist, John Ralston, is getting paid by them?
Yes, he gets a check from them.
Gotta love journalism these days.
Yes.
And by the way, for all you...
One more kicker that I wanted to tell you is that our former executive director, who was responsible for a lot of this and burning the party down on her way out, that was very loyal to the old guard, is now the political director over Nevada in the DNC. They rewarded her with a political director's position within the DNC, and has been continued to collude against us and conspire against us since taking that position.
Was that Roberta Lang?
No, Roberta Lang is a state legislator now.
Oh, okay. Sorry. And by the way, John Ralston is the one that pushed that bullshit about Bernie Sanders.
Throwing chairs? Yes.
Throwing chairs.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. So let me ask you, just to break it down for people that aren't from Nevada, I mean, what could, there are viewers watching who say, good luck to you. I'm done with the Democratic Party. But for those that still want to fight, what could they do to support the Nevada State Democratic Party, the official one? What could they do in their states to fight, this kind of stuff? What could people do that still want to be active and fight this corruption? What could they do?
Well, I would suggest, we do an inside-outside strategy. So we work with several outside organizations, as well as forming our own caucuses within the state party. So the first action that I took was forming Left Caucus, which was chartered under Clark County, which is the largest county, and it's basically Vegas and surrounding area. So once I chartered that caucus, which was a progressive left-leaning caucus, we started to have more power and more ability to organize. And we were able to get the attention of more elected officials, because then now we're a chartered Democratic caucus. So you can't just ignore a chartered Democratic caucus, you know, within the Democratic Party as an elected official, or at least you're not supposed to. But it helped us get a start and give people a place to go to start organizing. So Left Caucus became very organized, very big. You know, they've maintained their structure, they've maintained their membership, and they've worked in coalition with all these other organizations, including the Las Vegas DSA, to make sure that we hold on to our majorities, that we keep getting progressives elected into the state central committee, things like that. So that's your first step, is finding a point where you're going to start organizing from. And I think that was key for us, because right after Bernie won here by landslide, I immediately went to work to engage every single Bernie voter from coming out of the caucuses. I got a list of those voters, and I contacted every one of them by emails, by phone calls, by text messages, and got them to think about joining Left Caucus and keep them engaged through the county convention process and then through the state convention process. And by doing that, we held our majorities all the way through the county convention, up to the state convention, through the state convention, so that we could start electing progressives to positions of power within the Democratic Party. So that's how we did it. And you can use that same sort of structure or strategy. You know, every state has a different state central committee structure. There's some similar to Nevada, there's some more similar to Michigan. So you have to know what that structure is and how you're going to get progressives into that system to start with. So by having a point of organizing and getting everybody into that point, that gives you a good starting basis for making other changes.